Welcome to Julie Noted. I wish I could give you more encouraging news, but we have a breaking report that China has successfully cyber-hacked the United States government. Just to pause for a moment, does that not sound like a line from a dystopian novel? But it is our real life right now that this just happened. According to the Associated Press, state-backed Chinese hackers compromised Microsoft's cloud-based security and hacked the emails of government officials at multiple U.S. agencies. This was allegedly done days ahead of Secretary of State Antony Blinken's trip to Beijing last month. As you know from watching Julie Noted, our Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, recently just visited Beijing herself. And as China was hacking the United States government, Secretary Yellen was bowing to top diplomats. Let's look at this clip of her bowing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the people who are compromising our security. This breach was allegedly discovered in mid-June by the State Department. We know right now it is mid-July. This is being filmed on July 12th. So it appears that our government has known this for about a month now, and nevertheless sent our Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, to pay a bowing visit to the people who are undermining us. The United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the FBI said that Chinese hackers gained access by impersonating authorized users, and they allegedly directly targeted specific members of our government who deal with U.S.-China relations. The State Department has maintained that none of the breach systems were classified. But how can that be possible? Even if there isn't classified material that the Chinese have gained access to, though I highly doubt that, certainly they have gained access to highly sensitive, important, private information pertaining to our government. This is espionage. This is a blatant breach of international law. Espionage is a practice of spying or using spies, typically by governments, to obtain political and military information. Countries like China and Russia put American citizens who are in their countries in jail on trumped-up charges of espionage, just to slight the United States of America. And meanwhile, here we have China committing actual espionage. And I can guarantee you, and I say it regrettably, I can guarantee you that very little will happen in the wake of this breach. Why? Let's look at the evidence. This is not new. China has been undermining and trying to subvert the United States for quite some time now. Now, boy, have things turned around from just 60 years ago. 60 years ago, China was in a destitute state. Mao Zedong was the leader, and he implemented what is called a permanent socialist revolution in the countryside. It was the policy of the Chinese Communist Party to purposefully cripple China economically. They gave workers faulty machines and backward old manufacturing equipment in order to enact this permanent revolution. They thought the more people were working with faulty things, the more that they would continue being socialists and not resist the government. That was China 60 years ago, a backward agrarian country. 60 years later, they are our most formidable enemy and opponent. They have the second largest economy in the world. The Pentagon announced that they recently surpassed us in the number of intercontinental ballistic missiles. They have killer satellites in outer space, which are designed to shoot down and destroy other satellites. And to boot, China and Russia recently announced that by 2035, they will build a jointly manned moon base. We have been allowing their ascension for quite some time now. And we have also been allowing not just their ascension, but that ascension to come at the cost of the United States. China has stolen $2 billion annually for the past 20 years in intellectual property. We have not done anything about that breach. China opened a police station in New York City, which they say was to provide, quote, vital services for Chinese nationals living in the United States. That is BS. An embassy provides vital services, to Chinese nationals living in the country. This police station in New York City was to spy on those Chinese nationals and to spy on the United States and come into our country and say, we can have authority over the rule of law, even though we're not citizens here. Yan Zhiyang, who is a United States born individual whose parents were born in China. He was born here in America. He was running for the 10th district in New York during the congressional race a few years ago. He had big anti-Chinese Communist Party stances. That was one of the main things that he was running on, to get rid of CCP influence here in the United States. Well, China sent over as many as 3 individuals with the sole purpose of physically harming this American citizen, and the FBI took several years to discover this and arrest them. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death in the United States for individuals aged 18 to 45. The size of a grain of sand can kill you. It is an utter destructive epidemic that we are seeing. Where does that fentanyl come from? It comes from China. It is made and manufactured in China. Then they sell it to Mexican and other Latin American drug cartels who funnel it across our border. Now, China may not be sending over military planes or naval ships or landing battalions on our soil to kill American citizens, but they are nevertheless backdoor clandestinely killing American citizens by pushing fentanyl onto us. What have we done about that? Absolutely nothing. TikTok is used by over 120 million Americans. WeChat is also used by over 100 million. Those are 2 Beijing CCP-backed companies. And guess what they do? They spy on American users. Part of the terms of service in TikTok is that ByteDance, the CCP-backed parent company, has access to your personal and financial records, the things that you type, even if you don't send them, and also the contents and file names of the things on your computer. What have we done about that? Nothing. China in 2019 opened a spy base on the neighboring country of Cuba in order to spy on United States military bases here in Florida. We have not heard our president acknowledge that this exists, let alone condemn it. I could name so many more examples. China goes around the world and tries to pit other powers against the United States, whether it was Xi Jinping's recent meeting with the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, or his recent meeting with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, or his recent meeting with the president of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva. In each of those meetings, they talk about combating United States hegemony and enacting certain political and economic reforms to reduce the United States global power. We just let that happen. We yawn. We don't even say anything against it. China actually just negotiated an agreement between 2 adversarial countries, Saudi Arabia and Iran. Under President Trump, he signed the Abraham Accords, which endeavored to bring Israel closer to its neighboring Arab countries. We, the United States, were on the path towards facilitating a peace deal in addition to those Abraham Accords between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Well, not anymore, because now China has come in, allied Saudi Arabia with Iran. Iran hates Israel. Iran sells rockets to Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization that operates in Lebanon, which fires rockets into Israel. So there is no way now that Saudi Arabia, that is allied with Israel-hating Iran, is going to pursue closer relations with Israel. And again, we just yawn when these developments happen. So yes, I have no faith that our government will really do anything about this breach. Meanwhile, we have been extremely generous to China as they have been trying to destroy us. Not only do we not do anything to stop it, we actually continue to provide aid and be friends to China as they are trying to undermine us. In 1979, President Carter officially recognized the People's Republic of China, the Communist government of China, as the legitimate main government of China. Before that, the United States recognized Chiang Kai-shek's Nationalist Party in Taiwan as the legitimate main party ruling China. The Nationalists and the CCP split in the 1949 Civil War. The Communists won. But again, we had such strained relations with them for several decades until we agreed in 1979 to recognize them as the legitimate government. What did that do? Well, we did China a big favor. By recognizing the CCP as the legitimate government of China, we gave them the United Nations security seat that was once, before that, maintained by Chiang Kai-shek's Nationalist Party. Big favor we did to the people who were trying to undermine us. Another big favor that we did to them was in 2001, we admitted them to the World Trade Organization under President Bush, and we continue to help them by awarding the highest number of student visas of any country on earth. In 2020, this is according to ICE data, the United States gave 382,000 student visas to Chinese students alone. That is almost double the second place country, India, which gave 200,000 student visas to Chinese nationals, and then South Korea was number 3 with 68,000. So they are spying on us. They are breaching our government institutions. They are killing Americans with fentanyl. And yet we are around every turn trying to help them. Their rhetoric against us has increased. They have said over the past few months, this is according to the president of China, Xi Jinping, quote, Western countries led by the United States have implemented comprehensive containment, encirclement, and suppression against us. That is gaslighting 101. Oh, right, we have been the ones that have been engaging in all-out containment, encirclement, and suppression. Right. The foreign minister of China, Qin Gang, said that if the United States does not reverse course on what? Surely, quote, there will be conflict and confrontation. We never responded to those comments. Instead, in the early weeks of 2023, when China sent a spy balloon over the United States, we waited a few days, twiddled our thumbs, finally shot it down over the coast of South Carolina. And then recently, President Biden actually gave China a pass for the spy balloon, saying they didn't mean it. Let's listen to the clip.
One of the things that balloon caused was not so much that it got shot down, but I don't think the leadership knew where it was and knew what was in it and knew what was going on. I think it was more embarrassing than it was intentional. And so I'm hoping that over the next several months, I'll be meeting with Xi again and talking about legitimate differences we have, but also how there's areas we can get along.
Do you know what a joke that is? Nothing that China does is willy-nilly. They are the most calculating people on earth. Every move they make, every word they utter is intensely thought through. It is a joke that the President of the United States would give China such a pass when they are sending a spy balloon to undermine our national security. He just goes, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. It's just a willy-nilly weather balloon that they just lost track of. That is so insulting. I rarely get angry on the air. I rarely get angry in life. But I have to tell you, I am so angry at this president because he has put us in a dangerous situation by giving China a pass and also, just a small detail to note, being bought off by China. In November of 2020, Di Dongzhang, who is the vice dean at the School of International Relations at Renmin University, which is like everything in China, a Chinese Communist Party-backed school, he said when President Biden was elected that he is compromised. Quote, we have people at the top, we meaning China. We now have our old friends who are at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. They've been at the top for the past 30 and 40 years. We've been utilizing the core power of the United States. These are CCP officials bragging about how they have bought off our president. Now we're seeing Biden was elected. Trump has been saying that Biden's son Hunter has some sort of global foundation. Who helped them build those foundations? Got it? This is a CCP official admitting that they have infiltrated the Biden family. Hunter Biden's business partner got a $3 million wire transfer from China, and much of that money went to Hunter, as well as President Biden's brother, James Biden, as well as President Biden's former daughter-in-law, who is married to Beau Biden, as well as many of his grandchildren. The Penn Biden Center, which is the site of those classified documents that President Biden had stashed in the closet, the Penn Biden Center awards President Biden a $900,000 salary. Who do you think is the number one funder of the Penn Biden Center? China. Hunter Biden in 2017 had a meeting with a Chinese energy tycoon with ties to the CCP, and it came out that this individual sent Hunter Biden a 3-carat diamond. When government officials asked Hunter Biden about this, he denied the story. Finally, in an email to Ye Jianming, who is a government-connected owner of a Chinese energy company, Hunter Biden demanded that this individual pay him $10 million a year, quote, for introductions alone. So Hunter Biden is using his father's status to go seek out CCP officials to pay the Bidens personally money. Emails about proposed ownership stakes for each investor said that 10% went to, quote, the big guy. Hunter Biden's business partner testified under Congress that this big guy was our President Joe Biden. It is so awful. It is just so despicably awful how hard the United States has worked to build this prosperous, secure, not in all cases, but mostly prosperous and secure country. And here we have our president using it as his plaything just to get a paycheck from our adversaries. It's caught up with us. It's caught up with us today. And we are going to see, I hate to say it, over the next few years, and certainly over the next few decades, our way of life permanently change because of this error. Now let's end this highly encouraging episode. I'm sorry, but we all need to know about this. Let's end this highly encouraging episode by playing a compilation of what our president has said about the people who hacked us today.
Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracies have grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the east, in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system. They're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not competition for us.
Thank you very much for joining me today. In order to stay up to date with noteworthy news, please hit the subscribe button down below, and I will see you all soon. Take care.